Okay, here we've got the Flying Eagle Veloce 2 skate by Flying Eagle in China. It's a beautiful, beautiful skate. I have in a previous, I owned the Flying Eagle Drift 2 Carbon, which I reviewed in another video. So when I knew there was a boot that was similar, that had a 195mm mount, which I could put marathon frames on, I got excited and I bought one. In this case, I'm using the Rollerblade 3-wheel drive frame from an old pair of Tempest 125s. I've also got the Flying Eagle Phantom 4x110 frame, which is great as well, but just for today I'm just having it in the 3x125 configuration. Like all Flying Eagle products, the craftsmanship is beautiful. The boot work, obviously whoever makes the boots, they're excellent, they know what they're doing, they make a very nice, solid, light, well put together boot. What's the differences? The differences are between this and a drift, if you've had a drift or tried on a drift or seen a drift, is the boot is 195mm mount spacing instead of 165mm spacing. The toe profile is more square instead of narrow, which worked quite well for me because I had wide toes. So if you have wide feet at the front, the Veloce I think is a better option than a drift, but you're committing to a long frame instead of a short frame. There's also a layer of breathable leather that runs along each side of the boot, which makes them breathe much better than a drift, which I did notice straight away. The front strap, the mid strap, the buckles, the cuff, that's all exactly the same as the drift and the drift 2. I was always thinking for a while that they actually just took the same boot and called it something else, but it's not the case. It is actually different, slight differences. So you've got a wider toe, you have the breathable mesh along here, and you have clever little things like on the tongue there is the loops, 2 loops on the tongue instead of 1 loop on the tongue, so that stops the tongue from twisting to the side over time, which keeps it centered. There is also, similar to a cedar boot, so they use like a soft section at about almost in line with where the 45-degree buckle is, so that the boot can shift a little like this. The cuff doesn't really move at all because it's I don't know, it's almost not, it's really just there to have a buckle to be able to do the top up, but most of the tension and the support comes from lacing up the boot tight. Yeah, so on that, it's what I've learned over time is if you do the laces all the way to the top, your ankle is bolted in very tight, and then as you flex forward and skate, because you're done up at the top, as your leg moves forward, your heel, you can kind of imagine your heel, it's probably a bad example, but as you go forward, because it's contacting the top, it actually starts to try and lift up and out. Your heel starts to come up and out like this because it's levering on the top of here, which then starts to give you blisters at the back of the heel. Like the Zebra Highlight, this boot has like a cup around your heel, which is there to try and support your heel and hold it in place. But if you do everything up so tight, when you're flexing, you're actually kind of lifting your heel out, up and out, which then gives you the blisters. So if you go with just the second eyelet from the top, if you only lace them up to that far, it gives your leg more range of motion, or your ankle more range of movement, and it works better, you don't get the blisters. I also wear ankle booties to stop blisters in these boots as well, because they're that very strange material on the inside. It's not like a soft mesh, it's more like the boot is heat moldable, very easy to mold. You can basically take all the plastic parts off and the wheels off, and you put the boot in an oven for 10 minutes at about 100 degrees Celsius, and take it out, put your foot in it, do it up tight, and then stay there for about 15 minutes, and it ends up fitting very, very well. It comes with no inner sole at all, which makes for a very, very hard ride. That's one of my biggest concerns, or what I've spent the most time trying to get right since purchasing these, is finding the right inner sole that isn't too soft and spongy that creates movement inside the boot, but also not one that's so hard that it offers no shock absorption at all. So I'm trying to find the right inner sole that's somewhere in the middle, and I think I'm almost there now. The carbon fibre that's used for this boot, it's soft, or it's heat moldable, but it's very, very, very rigid. I've done some excellent personal bests and averages in these skates. I've skated these skates 95 kilometres and 110 kilometres in one skate. At that distance, at 100 kilometres, I had problems with just how hard they are. And like I said, I'm still working on an inner sole to fix that. But the rest of it is actually really comfortable. I didn't have any blisters or hot spots or pressure points. And then once I worked out to only go up to the second last eyelet, I stopped having heel lift, so there was no problems there. It was just on the toes, because I didn't really have a good inner sole to dampen those vibrations. That's where it hurt, on the the heel of the foot. So yeah, pros: very light, very rigid, very fast, excellent workmanship. It's really a really good looking boot. Cons, the bad points is just that it's very, very hard, which makes it very fast, but makes it uncomfortable on a rougher road unless you can get a good inner sole to smooth out the vibration. From the drift to this, they've really seemed to have ironed out all the small things that I didn't like about the drift, like having too narrow a toe, or having only one loop on the tip, on the tongue where the laces went through, and your tongue would eventually kind of sag off to one side inside your boot. That doesn't really happen now because there's two loops. They have the breathable mesh, which makes it not so hot anymore, and yeah, it's just a really, really good boot. I like to skate in marathons. I like doing marathon distances. I like doing long distance skating. The Rollerblade Tempest was my choice for that. Sorry, but the Rollerblade Endurance was my hopeful choice for that. I went with Tempest, and I wanted something more supportive, so I wasn't losing much power and transfer, so I went for the Endurance. Had issues, as I've described in previous review. Then went to the Veloce 2, and it's almost perfect. Other than the lack of an inner sole, and if you do them up very tight to the top, you get heel lift problems. They're pretty much a perfect skate for me. Easy fix. You don't do the laces all the way to the top, and you get a nice inner sole, and then you got yourself a really capable long distance skate. Even in this configuration on a 12.6 inch 3x125, the amount of support in the boot and in the cuff, and then the height of the boot, I can still quite comfortably skate this skate in the city and still have manoeuvrability and be able to do a power slide if I want to. So as a commuter, if that was something you were going to look at, or just doing long distances, this is the great sort of all-rounder skate. I sort of went through a phase where I tried street skates with longer frames, but found I was losing too much power through the plastic and the softness of the skates. A full speed skate, I don't think I'd have the control to navigate through a city. This is pretty much right in the middle between a proper speed skate and a freestyle or an urban boot. So yeah, good choice if that's the kind of thing you want to do. Thanks.